The history of Hamura Otsutsuki has always been confusing. Whether it's how he awakened the Tenseigan, the creation of his celestial decree, or even how he has an entire bloodline on the moon while having a separate one on the planet. Now, some of these things have been explained to some degree, while others have not, which is why we're making this video today. You see, all of this leads back to Toneri Otsutsuki. Why does he look the way he does? Why does he have white skin and white hair? Why does he possess the symbols of the 6 paths on his body when no one else does? These are all questions that can only be answered by first understanding the lore, which is typically tied to Japanese mythology, more specifically the tale of Urashima Taro. You see, the fascinating thing about this specific tale is that it actually covers multiple characters in Boruto and Naruto. This includes Kaguya, Hagoromo, Hamura, Urashiki, Toneri, and even the Otsutsuki god himself. In essence, this story follows a young fisherman named Urashima Taro who was one day fishing when he noticed a group of children torturing a small turtle. Taro then saved the turtle and let it go back into the sea. The next day, a giant turtle approached him and told him that the small turtle he had saved is actually the daughter of the Emperor of the Sea, Ryujin, who wants to see him to thank him. The turtle magically gave Taro gills and brought him to the bottom of the sea to the palace of the Dragon King. There he met the Emperor and the small turtle, who was now a lovely princess called Otohime. The palace had a view of the 4 seasons, a different one on each side. Taro stayed there with Otohime for 3 days, but soon wanted to go back to his village and see his aging mother, so he requested permission to leave. The princess was sorry to see him go, but still wished him well and gave him a mysterious box called Tamete Bako, which will protect him from harm. But she also warned him that he should never open it. Taro then grabbed the box, jumped on the back of the turtle that brought him to the castle, and went to the surface. However, when Taro got home, everything had changed. His home is gone, his mother has vanished, and the people he knew are nowhere to be seen. He asked someone that was around if he knows anyone called Urashima Taro. The person answered that they had heard of someone of that name that had vanished at sea a long time ago. He then discovered that 300 years had passed since the day he left for the bottom of the sea. Struck by grief, Taro absent-mindedly opened the box the princess had given him and told him not to open, which then emitted a cloud of white smoke. This then caused him to suddenly age. His beard grew long and white and his back bent. From the sea came the sad, sweet voice of the princess that said, "I told you not to open the box. In that box was your old age." And that's where the story ended. Well, at least the story of Urashima Taro. Now, as I said before, he did influence the creation of a certain Otsutsuki, that being Urashiki Otsutsuki. You can see that in the design of the character, with his preferred weapon being a fishing rod, which of course is a reference to Urashima being a fisherman, typically depicted with his own fishing rod. Along with the introduction of the time travel turtle known as Karasuki that was found at the bottom of the sea, which is a clear nod to the turtle Urashima led back into the sea at the start of his own story. Not only that, you also have Urashiki himself name dropping the palace of the Dragon King in Boruto's anime, which of course is where he sealed Toneri for 10,000 years, which is also seemingly referring to the time dilation effect of the Dragon King's castle shown in Urashima's story. This all makes it very clear that this character was influenced by this story, similar to how Kaguya was influenced by Princess Kaguya, Momoshiki with Momotaro, Kinshiki with Kintaro, and even Ishiki with Ishunboshi. They were all influenced by deities in Japanese mythology. Now, as I said before, that was the end of Urashima's tale, but not anyone else's. You see, Otohime, who is the daughter of the Dragon King, is actually the main focus of this video since she's tied to another Japanese figure called Hori. Now, this might be Hohori or Hori, I don't even know, but Hori is easier to pronounce, so I'm just gonna call him Hori, okay? Now, in this story, Hori was a hunter who had an argument with his brother Hoderi, who was a fisherman. Now, the argument was over a fishing hook that Hori had forced his elder brother to lend to him and had lost. Hoderi wanted his fishing hook back, and he refused to accept another one due to the belief that each tool is animated and hence unique. Hori then descended to the bottom of the sea to search for the item but was unable to find it. Instead, he found Toyotama Hime, the daughter of the sea god Ryujin. The sea god then helped Hori find Hoderi's lost hook, and Hori later went on to marry Toyotama Hime. By the way, Toyotama Hime is the same person as Otehime from Urashima's tale. It's then said that Hori lived with his wife under the sea in a palace for 3 years, but after that Hori became homesick and wished to return to his home country. His brother forgave him after he returned the hook, and Toyotama Hime gave birth to his son called Ugaya Fukiezu. Or at least that's what I think it's saying here. Now, during that time when Toyota Hime was giving birth to her child, which is the name I just pronounced, she had Hori swear not to attempt to see her real figure. But he then broke that promise and discovered her true form, which was a dragon, since again, she was the daughter of the Dragon King. She was ashamed and returned to her father, never to return again. Now, Ugaya Fukiezu, which is the son of Uteime and Hori, later married his mother's sister, who actually gave birth to the Emperor Jimmu, who was the first emperor of Japan. Hori then reigned over Takachiho Hyuga province for 560 years, the key word there being Hyuga, but we're gonna get to that later on. Now this is where we start to put everything together. Now as we know, Kaguya when she arrived on the planet fell in love with an emperor called Tenji and later had 2 sons called Hagoromu and Hamura. After she was sealed on the moon by these 2 sons, one of them remained on the earth, that being Hagoromu, while the other one went to guard her on the moon, that one being Hamura. We already know the story of Hagoromu's sons, Ashura and Indra, who later created the Senju and Uchiha clan amongst other bloodlines. So the focus of this video will be Hamura's bloodline, which would be the Hyuga clan and the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. You see, Hamura created a pathway between the earth and the moon itself, which is what we see the characters use in Naruto the Last. This simply means that Hamura was able to populate the moon and create the Hyuga clan branch on the planet by procreating with regular humans. This explains why the Otsutsuki clan members on the moon and the Hyuga clan members on the planet all look like regular humans, with the added benefit of having Byakugans. This makes perfect sense genetic wise since Hamura was already half human, so mating with another human would significantly reduce the Otsutsuki gene over time. However, as I mentioned before, Toneri, who is a member of the Moon branch, still possessed a lot of the traits of the Otsutsuki, and so did his father, which means that his bloodline is separate from everyone else's. You see, I believe that Hamura not only mated with regular humans, but also an actual Otsutsuki. This brings us back to Oteime, the daughter of the Dragon King, who I believe to actually be Hamura's wife. Thus, the story of Hori is what influenced the story of Hamura, in the sense that the Otsutsukis are derivatives of the Shinto gods themselves. This brings us to this family tree that actually shows the 3 generations of Hyuga, which I mentioned earlier was later ruled over by Hori himself. This is a direct parallel to how Hamura was stated to have taken over the Otsutsuki clan after Kaguya was sealed. In addition to that, it also shows us the entire family tree of the Otsutsuki. Oyamatsumi or Yamatsumi is the god of the mountains, seas, and wars in Japanese mythology, who later had a daughter called Konahaya Sakuya Hime. She was known as the Blossom Princess, the goddess of all volcanoes and symbol of delicate earthly life. This is oddly similar to how Kaguya's name can translate to either Blossom or Shining Princess as well, which likely means that Kaguya is a derivative of Konahana Sakuya Hime. This also means that Kaguya's sons, Hagoromu, Hamura, and the Black Zetsu are all derivatives of Hori, Hodori, and Osuseri. This brings us to Hori, who married and had a child with Toyotama Hime, the daughter of the Dragon King known as Watatsumi or Ryuji, the same Dragon King that was mentioned in Boruto episode 53 when Urashiki sealed away Toneri. What this implies is that if Hamura's backstory is similar to that of Hori, this means that he was able to get in contact with other Otsutsukis, one of which he was later able to procreate with, thus creating Toneri's bloodline. What this would also mean is that similar to how Otaime abandoned her child and husband, the same could have happened with Hamura and his version of the Dragon King's daughter. This would explain why Toneri and his specific bloodline possesses more Otsutsuki traits than that of Hamura's other descendants. He simply possesses more of the Otsutsuki gene. By the way, some of this isn't even a theory, since based on Toneri's dialogue with Urashiki, it appears that the Moon branch was once in contact with other Otsutsukis.
It seems that I've found you at last. It took me a while, Lord Toneri Otsutsuki.
So let's get this straight, right? Urashiki, who is an actual full-blooded Otsutsuki from the main Otsutsuki clan, refers to Toneri as Lord Toneri Otsutsuki. That in and of itself is very odd. Why is Toneri, who's supposedly just a descendant of Hamura and some random human, referred to as Lord? That too from an actual Otsutsuki. It just doesn't make any sense. Then Urashiki went on to say that they're from the same clan, which Lord Toneri then replied to by saying that he thought the Otsutsuki clan's fate was going to end with him. Then Urashiki replied saying that the main branch doesn't feel that way. This part of a conversation implies that they're both referring to the main Otsutsuki clan family, which Toneri seems to be aware of. However, what's interesting here is that Toneri later said, if they exist, why did they forsake us for 1,000 years? This simply means that Toneri knew about the main family of the Otsutsuki and he knows that he's directly connected to them. But for some reason he thought they no longer existed. He thought he was the only one left. What this could mean is that either the text that Toneri got his information from got tampered with, thus not holding the truth of the past, because Toneri is very young, so he's actually getting this information from somewhere else. Or it could be that the people themselves had their memories altered, thus passing on a distorted history. This was likely done by the main branch of the Otsutsuki clan family, who actually kept watch over the sector to some degree, as stated by Urashiki. And when I say altered their memories, I'm referring to the ability Kaguya used to change the memories of the humans, not omnipotence. So in essence, Toneri is referred to as Lord Toneri by Urashiki because he's a descendant of the son of the Dragon King's daughter. In addition to that, he's also likely a member of the two families with the main branch of the Otsutsuki, one being from Kaguya's father, Yamatsumi, and the other being from Hamura's wife's side, which would be Watatsumi, the Dragon King. Now all of this ties back into the plot of Boruto, but I'm going to save that for another video. With that being said, do you think that Toneri is a descendant of another Otsutsuki branch? Maybe Hamura met with some other Otsutsukis? Well, not even maybe, because that's seemingly confirmed by the interaction with Urashiki and Toneri. There seems to be a connection with the real Otsutsukis and the derivative Otsutsukis on the moon. So I'm just gonna run with it because I think it makes perfect sense, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section itself. Do you think that this makes sense, or do you think I'm reaching here? Do you think that it's some kind of genetic recessive trait or whatever? Do you think that this trait just manifested in Toneri's bloodline because, you know, he wanted to? Because that could be the case. You have the same thing with Boruto and the Jogan, him manifesting the Jogan even though no one else did. So it could be the case with Toneri and his bloodline. So that might be the answer there, and I'm just reaching. But based on what we're seeing here with the history of the Shinto gods, specifically the Hyuga branch, and even the name itself, Hyuga, like, come on. It's very clear that Kishimoto took the influence from this specific group of people to create the Otsutsukis in Boruto. So if you guys want to learn more, just search up the name of the characters I mentioned in this video, and that should get you on the right track. But before you go, check out my video on Boruto versus Kawaki, which I did about 2 days ago. I did an in-depth analysis, which I think you guys should check out, because for some reason you guys just decided to not watch that video. So go check it out, give it some support, let's get it into the algorithm. With that being said, again, have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.